Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CM Storm Best of 7 show match between Liquid Amaz and Cloud9 StrifeCro. My name is Dan Frodan, and today I'm joined by Nathan, that's Admiral Zamora. Nathan, how's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty good. It's a Friday evening, of course, and I'm excited. Got in the workout last night, so I'm even feeling kind of sore. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I gotta get in that Frodan shape. Awesome. I gotta get in that Frodan shape. I'm jealous.
No, it's we all strive to be like Lothar. Let's not kid ourselves here. I'm kind of like the middle progress bar, so it's definitely the case there. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. Today we're gonna have a best of 7 for $1,000 between these two guys. It's gonna be a lot of fun. People who tuned in last week between Savitz and Raynet, or last time, excuse me, where it was really close series, 4-3. And today I think it's going to be really close once again because we have two of the top players, one from North America, one from Hong Kong. Nathan, can you break down what today's going to be a little bit like with the format and how the players match up?
Yeah, this is going to be a best of 7 series. So as typical to anything, players are going to play 5 different classes. And whenever a class loses, that deck becomes locked. And the first player to have have 4 of their classes locked becomes a loser. Now, at that point, before the match starts, we're actually going to have a ban going into it. So there's a 5-class lineup. They're going to ban one of their opponent's classes, and then they're going to play the best of 7. And this is a format that we've been seeing catch on a lot in terms of competitive Hearthstone. I think it brings a lot of interesting, not only deck building, but balance to the problems that you're typically finding, which is one deck being so dominant that there's not really a good way to counter it. That's something that's really, I'm always excited to see, and I hope continues to be a big part of Hearthstone.
You know, there is a little bit of a counter argument that if someone discovers something really cool and they want to kind of, be rewarded, that might get banned. But at the same time, this does test like breadth of knowledge. You don't just know one class. You're not a one-trick pony. Amaz is one of those people for a long time pegged that's only a priest player. But when you kind of show over a best of 7, you can play multiple classes. That gets put to the test, especially when you have bans implemented into the system. So absolutely good analysis, Nathan. And let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff that's been going on too. You might notice that this is hosted by Cooler Master. They're going to be giving out t-shirts in the chat. All you have to do is be logged into Twitch and just be participating and hanging out. They'll be giving out t-shirts all throughout the night, and they'll contact you guys through your Twitch account. So make sure to log in and hang out and join everybody and all their kappas and all their frankers. We'll also announce mice winners in the stream at the very end, so make sure to stick around where you can get some cool Cooler Master gear, as they are the sponsors of this entire event. Now that we've got a little bit of homework done, let's talk about how these two players match up, Nathan. StrifeCro versus Amaz is a battle between number 3 and number 1 on Gosu Gamer's rankings, and I think for good measure, these guys are the top of their region respectively, and I can't really hype it up any more than that. It's like it's the Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, you go back dating to March, StrifeCro, he won Seat Story back then, and then since then he's had he had a win at Tavern Takeover, and he had a couple of top 8s at DreamHack, IEM, and I think it was Prismatic Cup, which was very recently. And then you look at Amaz, and Amaz has just been killing it. I mean, 3 victories in major tournaments. He got second place at DreamHack in Sweden, and in Bucharest he also got top 4. It's just you look at the resumes that are being put together by both these players in such a short period of time, and it's no question why these two players are here today to play this show match.
Yeah, it's funny. 3-4 months ago, people were saying Amaz was just one of those popular streamers. His best achievements was a long run at King of the Hill for NESL. What else was he able to do, really? Maybe he won one Deck War Season 1 show match, but wasn't really performing. And then all of a sudden, in back-to-back consecutive offline tournaments, Amaz placed high. Then he started winning things like IEM, Millennium Cup, and even the VGVN, I believe a week or a half ago. And now he's back at it. He's trying to win this show match. He's trying to win everything. The guy's participating in so many tournaments. It's kind of hard to imagine him being able to keep up this pace, right? How is this guy able to keep up a win rate this high and prove all the RNG haters wrong multiple times while still being able to maintain a high level and stream and put out cool content like Hearthstone Jeoparino? The guy is a true example of hard work and a good role model overall. So I'm really excited to have him today. But let's talk a little bit about StrifeCro too. This guy is a person who's been around since the beginning of beta, setting the meta, right? He's been building decks like Druids from the very beginning and trying to innovate multiple times. Have you been able to talk to StrifeCro recently and get some of his insight on the game? Can you give me some pro insight here, Admirable?
I haven't really spoken to StrifeCro that much recently. I've been kind of busy with a lot of my own content stuff as well, so I'm feeling through the way the new metagame works. But you hit the nail on the head with that one. StrifeCro's a guy who he finds the most powerful strategy that is like not too flashy. It's just very solid and very consistent and puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. And as you mentioned with Druid, he was one of the first people I think that saw Baron Geddon played in Druid when there was a lot of Zoo decks running around, like back when pre-Blood Imp nerf. And then he was also one of the first people to successfully use a Force of Nature Savage Roar combo, being able to fit it in. And just kind of ever since then, his style has always been very consistent in solid decks, straight through. I don't expect anything different from him here today. And I think that that kind of style is the kind of style that you'll see continually be successful in Hearthstone, because it's just fundamentals are such a huge key to this game. Because RNG is a factor at the end of the day. There is a little bit of luck in there. So the more of that you can shave off from your own strategy, I think the better chance you have of actually putting up consistent numbers like he has been.
Oh my god, I sense the Reddit threads are already starting. I heard Admirable admit that RNG is part of Hearthstone. Calm down, guys. It's definitely part of it. I think with these guys, with Amaz in question, I think that is certainly something that we're going to be seeing today. Keep in mind that this is, by the way, full next release played. It is not a live show match. Amaz and StrifeCro have played the games already, but it's been fresh. I think it was recorded yesterday. But it is going to be live on the full next Rammus patch after Kel'Thuzad's wing with the Frostworm layer. So it's going to be cool to see if these guys found any innovations. I know the meta is a little bit chaotic. People are saying that Hunter is really dominant and that it's worthy of being banned. In fact, let's pull up the ban screen right now and look at what these guys have chosen. And is it going to be the Hunter band, or is it going to be something else?
I think a Hunter band actually right now is very acceptable. I've played a lot of Miracle Rogue in the past couple days, sort of trying to target Hunter decks. But what I found is that there are so many people that are trying to do the same thing with so many different decks that it's really hard to target that strategy. So I haven't actually, my biggest win rate so far has been Shaman, believe it or not. Hunter is, in my opinion, an extremely dominant force right now. It got a lot of consistency in its first couple of turns with cards like Web Spinner and cards like Haunted Creeper. And at the same time, Priest saw a lot of consistency built with these very strong taunt minions that it was lacking prior to the next Rammus release, as well as Cult Master. And that's been true for every single class. Every class that needs this early pressure has gotten something out of Haunted Creeper or an Arubian Egg or even a class card from theirs. So honestly, I don't even think that Rogue is the most dominant force anymore, because part of the reason it was able to pick apart these strategies was a lack of consistency in the early game.
And Amaz is one of those players you don't really see playing Rogue ever, despite the fact that Miracle Rogue had its time in the sun, or even Tempo Rogue at a certain point. Amaz never really dabbled in that class, so there's no surprise there. But StrifeCro not running Rogue whatsoever. In fact, he used that one of the flexible spots to put Mage in, which is an interesting thing and kind of sad, because this is a best of 7 show match and you're trying to put on a good show while being able to showcase your deck building, and yet Mage was brought but not being able to be played. Real quick, just to kind of talk about Mage's place in the meta, Nathan, do you think it's in a good spot after full next Rammus? People were saying it's one of the weakest classes, if not the weakest.
I think when people say it's one of the weakest classes, they're specifically referring to ladder. When you think about how ladder is going to function, you're going to play against the most powerful deck a much larger percentage of the time than you will pretty much other stuff. But in a tournament, the most you could possibly face a Hunter in a format like this is against 25% of their lineup. That's the maximum you could face it. Whereas something like Hunter on ladder, when you start getting to the top end, you might notice that you're playing against it upwards of 30, close to 40% of the time, simply because it's so powerful. And a card like Flare will really hold something like Mage. It'll kind of just like holds its head under the water. It doesn't let it do anything. But in a tournament format, you can use it to target a lot of strategies that would be targeting Hunter, because they'll be much more focused around some strong tempo plays, making sure they can fend off some early pressure and kind of staving their way through it that way. And that's, I think, where Mage can shine, is in these slower matchups where it's allowed to enough time to set up.
That is true. With next Rammus, the meta certainly has slowed down because the setups for turns do require a little bit more elaborate planning from turn to turn. Now, taking a look at the full lineups, Amaz brings Paladin, which is a class that he's been exploring more, and he seems to kind of favor this class as his control-heavy matchup, where he's able to play it similar to Priest with a little bit of these combos while wiping off the board. So it's been reliable. Warlock, which he's shown a little bit of diversity, whether it's playing Zoo or Handlock. Now Amaz is kind of throwing it out there. Shaman is a class that he's kind of also experimented with, not to the success as Priest, which is his last class, so that's a little interesting. Talking about StrifeCro's lineups, it's classes where you've seen him play. Of course, it's Druid. StrifeCro is never not going to bring Druid, and Innervate's never going to allow Druid to be irrelevant. So I think with some of these Nax cards, you throw in Spectral Knight, you throw in Kel-Thazad into ramp, or you throw in even into Token Druid. People have been experimenting Kel-Thazad a lot, and maybe StrifeCro is going to bring some of that cool, unique deck building to that. Hunter, Shaman, Warrior seems pretty stable classes for the rest of the meta as well. Taking a look at these lineups, Nathan, because the game's about to start in a quick second. Do you have any predictions on how it matches up? Is one person favored at all whatsoever?
I think that if I have to give favor, I'm going to give it to over to StrifeCro, simply because he has a Hunter that remains unbanned. That's how powerful I think that deck is right now.
Well, all right. Okay. Well, I'm inclined to agree based on my ladder experiences. I'm playing Hunter counters, but even then, I'm not even splitting as dominant matchups percentages as I thought I would be. So I think so. But Amaz has also proven doubters and haters wrong many times. So maybe he can shut us up once again. So let's get ready for game number 1, guys, between Amaz and StrifeCro, and find out what classes these guys are choosing. Hunter seems to be a very popular leadoff nowadays, so I would kind of expect that, and it is from StrifeCro. Amaz will lead off with Paladin, which, if he's guessing it's Hunter, is a pretty good pick in my opinion.
Yeah, I can agree with that. In my experience with Hunter, Paladin's always been kind of trouble. True Silver Champion brings a lot of weight in terms of disrupting synergies that Houndmaster can't be of huge relevance, and then a card like Consecration can really help clean up the board after you've lost your position a bit. So the 1/1s, it's not the most exciting thing in the world to be making 1/1s while your opponent has cards like Unleash the Hounds in their deck, but every little bit of that damage adds up, and it can even do something like set up equality if you get into a position where your opponent had some big Houndmaster turns. So it's nothing to scoff at, but it's not exactly exciting either. But this lead from StrifeCro is a very strong one. This is exactly what we were talking about earlier. Its consistency has really come to the forefront with cards like Web Spinner and Haunted Creeper.
It gives it the ability to answer classes even like Paladin or like Shaman, where early on, if you're able to seize the dominant position, you can't really fight back because Hunter can't really affect the state of the board because the hero power doesn't do anything to minions. But you have all these small creatures now, so that way you put on a little bit of pressure, and you can even stack it by continuing to get really good value. Mad Scientist puts a card in play. Web Spinner gives you a beast to potentially draw off with Unleash the Hounds and Starving Buzzard. Lots of options already for StrifeCro. He opts to go for the Haunted Creeper instead of the Mad Scientist, though, because I think he does have that Freezing Trap in hand, so maybe he doesn't necessarily need to go for a setup of something like a Explosive Trap if it pops out unnecessarily.
Yeah, I like playing the Haunted Creeper here. It gets a second beast on the board. It keeps a little bit of pressure going. You do want to play this Freezing Trap before something like Mad Scientist gets activated, and I think you want to drop Mad Scientist kind of going into a turn where you expect your opponent to use Consecration. Outside of that, I think just a little bit of board pressure is better. You'll get in the damage while you can and go from there.
All right. Well, Harvest Golem is a really good minion to answer things early on, but we've been seeing a lot of people favor Freezing Trap just to get that early tempo and sneak in damage. And as much as Paladin has taunts and heals, there is a very big explosive burst potential that Hunter always has that you have to be mindful, because Leroy has always starting to rotate back in as one of those main finishers that mid-range Hunter has now.
Yeah, even when Leroy's not present in your opponent's deck, you oftentimes don't know that. Right. It's something you always have to consider. And it's one of those things that's very unique, I think, to Hearthstone that you don't see in a lot of other CCGs, at least the ones that I've played, where you're so in fear of cards that are going to burst you down, but they're not actually in your opponent's deck. It's just the threat of them alone allows your opponent to apply pressures in certain unique situations. But yeah, you have to worry about Leroy as far as this match is concerned.
Let me think.
Well, StrifeCro has decent quality of cards, Amaz has the decent quality of cards where he has Taunters, he's got ways to deal with some of these smaller minions like the Consecration. And he's going to be kind of disappointed when this Houndmaster pops out and is able to collect good big value. But he does have cards at his disposal to fight back. It's just whether or not he's able to stabilize the board in time, because Hunter continues to stack their advantage. And what they excel at is continue to sneak in these hero powers and ways to tickle you down, right? Where you're down to like 18, 16 health. And then from there point on, they just continue to put on pressure and you lose the game. So can Amaz really fight back on the board here, given that StrifeCro continues to stack his advantage and press for damage?
This is going to be a really tough game for him at this point. I mean, he's lost so much board position as it is. Killing off your opponent's board in a spot like this is almost rewarding to them, because they've already gotten value out of the Houndmaster, and they're going to get more value from their small minions that are in play. This is one of those games where I think it's just such a strong open from Hunter has really squelched the ability for Amaz to adequately answer what's happening.
I mean, look at this. It's such a terrible board to even use equality, right? Because they're spawning more minions. You're giving him the ability to respond because you're killing off and you're activating that web spinner on his own dime. So now you wipe your own board. Oh, StrifeCro picks up a Stone Tusk board, so that's not exactly the best minion, but maybe it comes in handy later.
Hi, Mom.
Will Amaz be able to get the key?
Do you just drop Lothab here, do you think?
Well, his play otherwise is pretty weak. Just the hero power and play a mad scientist.
Yep. It's got to be Lothab. This might be one of the spots where Amaz can start to turn it around, though. Sludge Belcher feels like it's really strong here. And that's going to lead into a potential consecration. This is the kind of turn that he needed in order to turn the game around, but I still think StrifeCro is going to be able to push through if you just look at his hand composition.
Yeah, and if StrifeCro can't really use his board or use the cards that he hands and he keeps drawing poorly, say he picks up like, you know, his other Hunter's Mark or something, and he doesn't have minions to drop, Hunter has a very sharp drop off where if they're not dropping things and plopping threats on the board, they often kind of lose control, and then all of a sudden they're playing the control game when they need to kind of be pushing and pressuring, and then all of a sudden they're using all the tools at their disposal to just stabilize, and Paladin can just out heal and play the slow game, and then they have no more threats left. So StrifeCro has to kind of make this work because he has damage, but Paladin is one of the best rebound classes for damage in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, something that's interesting to note here too is he chose to use the Hunter's Mark over the kill command, and I think that's 100% correct. He needs to make the push for damage, and if he decides to save the Hunter's Mark for, say, like a next taunt or whatever, or if he anticipates a bigger taunt coming out, it just ends up being a card that's often dead in his hand. So even if he anticipates a bigger taunt coming out, it's probably better to go ahead and save kill command anyway, because the times your opponent doesn't have a bigger taunt, you're able to make that big push for damage. So heads up play by using the Hunter's Mark here instead of using a kill command. Because he even could have gotten full value from it.
Amaz a little bit awkward turn here on terms of mana. He'd love to toss out Peacekeeper plus one of his 4s, whether it's, you know, the Senjin or even utilize True Silver ahead of time, but it's not very pretty at the moment. What do you think is best here?
It's tough to say. I think you really want to develop every single piece in your hand right now, but I think that Outlaw Peacekeeper's pretty much got to come down. As awful as it looks to be playing an Outlaw Peacekeeper and then like potentially like just hero powering and passing, to me it makes a lot more sense than pretty much everything else. Like Harrison Jones doesn't impact the board. The Shield Master does impact the board, but I think you can do better. And True Silver Champion's not doing enough either. So this is his second best play. I think this is a very close second to the Outlaw Peacekeeper. But there's a little bit of a risk associated with it.
I think he wants to set up for consecration as well because he wants to kind of get that out. Not to mention where maybe he has an opportunity to kind of answer more minions that get flooded on the board. If he has additional haunted creepers or other small things like web spinners, then maybe you can kind of get really good value and use that extra 1 damage creature maybe to equalize it a little bit.
You know, I said that this had a risk associated with it, but Aldor does as well. If you think about it, something like Ironbeak Owl can silence his own Lothab and peel off the Aldor Peacekeeper effect. So that's something to note as well. So this actually, it may not even make a difference if he chooses to use Aldor or use this engine at the end of the day.
All right, well, StrifeCro is not going to take the bait whatsoever. He's really prioritizing keeping Lothab at high health, which is extremely intelligent. Once again, like you've been mentioning, popping up this trap, which, did you get a good glimpse on what trap it was?
It was Explosive Trap.
Okay, and so, again, playing outside of consecration range, very important, and continue to put pressure. Paladin's at 10 health. He has Leroy in hand, so there is lethal represented right now, unless Amaz has something, but we know he can kind of stabilize here. Yeah,
this actually might be one of the games that he's able to stabilize because of the way this panned out. If that was a freezing trap, I think, that the Mad Scientist got, you might be able to... I mean, I think it would have just been in favor of StrifeCro at that point. He would have had no way to actually deal with the Lothab.
Pretty dead draw here on Hunter's Mark, at least for what StrifeCro wanted, a finishing potential of some kind. But, he still is a little bit short on mana because Leroy, you kind of want to squeeze in something on 9 mana, whether it's Kill Command, Leroy, or is Leroy Unleash the Hounds with the hero power. So that's usually the money spot for Hunter on turn 9.
Honestly, I don't mind just using Leroy here. If your opponent plays Tyrion, you're not going to get this damage ever. or likely not going to get the damage ever, and I think you just got to go for it. I think this is a really strong play from StrifeCro here. He recognizes that he's already in peril, and that he needs to get the job done as soon as possible. So this forces your opponent into playing Tyrion or having a heal spell here. Once, say they elect to play Tyrion and you happen to get lucky and draw some extra damage, it works out perfectly. Or if your opponent happens to heal and you draw something like Unleash the Hounds, then you can make the push from there.
Well, get the guaranteed damage in now, so that way, if you ever get to the point where the Tyrion does come down, or Belcher or something where you can't use in the future, all of a sudden it becomes defunct.
Unleash the Hounds.
And another interesting point.
Oh wow! I actually forgot the explosive trap is in place, so he basically just can't attack.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh!
He needs to draw, and well, I mean, the explosive trap will negate with the True Silver, right? It'll heal 2 damage and deal 2 damage, so he'll still be at 3. But regardless, Amaz is on a very real clock. He needs to draw a healing next turn, or else it's over.
Oh my!
And StrifeCro really has nothing else to do here. The Mad Scientist Buzzard, and Hunter's Mark is not really going to set anything up. He just wants the best opportunity possible to end it. Amaz needs to draw a heal right now. Holy Light, Lay on Hands. Humility is not it. He needed something like Guardian of Kings.
Yep.
Wait, is there a way to draw at all? No, Harrison Jones can't proc off any weapon.
No, that's going to do it. There's no way to deal 30 damage with this hand. Wow.
I'm looking and I don't see any opportunity either. So it looks like game 1 will go to StrifeCro, and taking down the Paladin, which is a deck that's performing very well in high-level tournaments just because of how Naxxramas has been able to shore up a lot of its matchups. Amaz is just going to attack into it, activate the explosive trap, and drop the game. And StrifeCro will start off in a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, I think one of the big differences in that game, honestly, was playing the Leroy when he had the opportunity to. I think there's a lot of people who would have waited, and I think they would have seen a loss as a result. And you got to give a lot of credit to StrifeCro in a position like that. He knows when he has to make pushes for damage, and again, his very consistent and deliberate style it pays off. Every time I watch the guy play, I'm just like, this is such good play. This is the example of how you should be playing. Yeah, if you had to show somebody games to teach them how to play without any words in them, I would show them StrifeCro's games. And eventually they would just figure it out and be like, oh, he just always attacks the board position. Yeah, and
he plays so intelligent to his win condition, you know? Like, it's kind of like, I read the article, by the way, that I was posted of you. Congrats. Got featured by PC Game on your coaching. And he was talking about being able to play the line that gives you the win, right? And making your opponent really uncomfortable. StrifeCro is very good at that, recognizing position. In fact, a little fun tidbit, at DreamHack Bucharest, when we were kind of gathered, we had some of the top minds in the entire game of Hearthstone there, right? We had, we had guys like Amaz. We had, Crip knows a lot about Hearthstone too, despite what people might be chatting about in Twitch chat. We had him. We had some of the other really fun guys like Nemjanikov. And StrifeCro's just sitting there dropping knowledge bombs on everybody, like teaching them how to play Hearthstone. Like, wow, this meta is about this and that. And because Hunter was so dominant back then, minion interaction has become lowered and all this stuff. And like guys like Reynad were just, his eyes were exploding with the amount of knowledge that was coming out. StrifeCro is so intelligent about Hearthstone, and he knows the metagame really well. So definitely a guy you want to study if you want to kind of tune up on your own skills.
Indeed.
Yeah. So now we go to game number 2. Amaz has Priest, he has a Shaman, and he has a Warlock deck. I don't know what's going to be coming up for him at the moment because we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to find out what happens in game number 2. Welcome back, everybody, to the Cooler Master Best of 7 show match between StrifeCro and Amaz. StrifeCro is up 1-0, and Amaz will be the one on the clock to pick his next deck between Priest, Shaman, and Warlock. Before we continue our Best of 7, we wanted to congratulate our first winner of the Cooler Master shirt giveaway that's going on in the chat. Congratulations to Lurid Lemon. Claim your shirt by PMing the channel name, which is Cooler Master Gaming. And why don't you hit the follow button as well, so that way you can get notifications when the channel goes live. So Lure Lemon, claim your shirt, and don't worry about anyone else who feels left out. You have your opportunity. All you gotta do is stay logged into Twitch and continue to stay interacting with everyone else. So it looks like game number 2, Amaz has a few choices at his disposal, but people have been saying Priest seems to be one of the best counters to Hunter nowadays. Do you feel like this is still the case after the last wing has been released, Nathan?
I don't really know if counters is the right word. Solid matchups, though. I think Priest certainly has one. Before something like Sludge Belcher came out, I think the matchup was atrocious. You really didn't have a lot of strong tools going into turn 4, 5, and 6 that really accomplished anything. Outside of an Alchemized Circle combo, you pretty much had no interaction on the board. But now that you've gotten stuff like Unstable Ghoul, if you want to play it, you have options like Deathlord if you want to play them, and you have cards like Sludge Belcher if you want to play them. It gives Priest a lot of defensive tools working into their late game scaling, so they have time to find like cards like Auchenai and Circle of Healing. But that being said, I don't think his other two matchups are really that bad either. Again, I said that Shaman was what I was having the best win rate with lately, and I think that one of the reasons why is because Earthshock has become so much better against Hunters, where before it was kind of just like a card that sat in your hand. People are playing stuff like Haunted Creeper, they're playing things like Weblord. It gives you opportunities to Earthshock. And so what's happening is you're building into these mid-game scenarios where you have a little bit of pressure on the board, and Savannah Highmane, which would normally be the trump card, if you have something like a Hex 4, can completely swing the game back around. So you're seeing a much different approach there, and that just, it's card for card matchup. It can be really good if you happen to pan out. And then, of course, you have Warlock. If Warlock ends up being a Zoo class here from Amaz, this is another one of those matchups that can potentially be very strong. It's just consistent, very efficient minions that are going to race your opponent more often than you're able to race them back. And so without cards like Unleash the Hounds or Explosive Trap, you find yourself in a spot where you're often unable to answer their board. But now, even if you have Explosive Trap, which you can fetch with Mad Scientist, Nerubian can help be a strong counter to that as well. So all those things come into account. I don't think that any three of these matchups, honestly, are really bad against Hunter. I think they're all fine. I'm not like happy about them, but I'm not sweating on any of them either.
Well, I guess if you're StrifeCro, then you're still feeling pretty good because Hunter did the job and got the first game win. Let's get ready for game number 2 and find out what Amaz has chosen for this best of 7. All right, it will be the Warlock, which leans towards the Zoo. I would be very surprised if it was Handlock being picked directly into Hunter. Absolutely no way there. And it definitely seems to be the Zoo here with Void Terror and Double Voidwalker.
Yep. So this is sort of a unique hand from StrifeCro. He's got basically both the tools he needs to start fighting against this deck. I'm curious. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's the second one. Of course, if those fetch freezing traps, though, it could be different.
Yeah, still though, it gives you the ability to seize back tempo on board, and it also puts out enough power to deal with threats early on. You know, Haunted Creeper is 3 damage spread out, maybe even 4 if it's a 1-attack creature trading into it. And then Unleash the Hounds, like we know, is not even just the draw mechanic with Starving Blizzard, but also the clear if you're able to kind of sneak in something like maybe a Timberwolf or just go for straight up AoE because there's a lot of weak minions early on.
Yep. Do you kill the Scientist here or do you push for 2 damage? I think you push for 2 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think you're the aggressor for sure, because you're putting out more minions. There is a very finite time before Unleash the Hounds is viable, so you don't want to kind of give your opponent life unnecessarily when you're playing the Zoo deck.
At the same time, you'll weaken your own minions. You'll become more vulnerable to Unleash the Hounds if you're not making that push. And while you're becoming more vulnerable, you're actually not making anything up for it. So if you're attacking your opponent's face, and then you're setting up Unleash the Hounds that way, at least you got some damage out of it. But if you just keep attacking their minions, you actually come out basically even.
Or behind, depends on how the Hunter is drawing. And speaking of drawing into stuff, you know, StrifeCro has the Explosive Trap drawn and played immediately by Mad Scientist, a very valuable card to reset Zoo. And if Zoo keeps getting their board constantly swept every single turn or 2, then they can't really utilize these buffs. He's got 2 Defender of Arcuses, no insurance whatsoever. He'll be able to get full value in them throughout this game.
Yep. It's his hand is extremely clunky right now. He's drawn both of the Direwolf alphas, which in this matchup I actually don't think are very strong. You're really looking for things like Haunted Creeper. You're really looking for cards like Flame Imp. I don't know if he's running Zombie Chow or not, but if he has Zombie Chow, that's certainly a card he wants to draw early on as well to make sure that he can get some value from it. Even Shattered Sun Cleric, I think, is going to be better at this point.
Well, the Knife Juggler comes out when maybe he could have utilized it earlier on, but it seems like, again, like you said, he's in a position where he won't be able to pick up optimal value. Any kind of use right now feels a little bit bad, but I think a Defender of Argus makes the most sense. It's also a little bit of a wonder what this trap is, but I think he already saw that it wasn't freezing, right? Because he attacked the previous turn.
Yep.
I agree. He knows this is explosive.
I agree as well. I think that Defender of Argus is really solid here. I think there's some arguments to be made for life tapping and then dropping Knife Juggler and then hoping you get into a 1-drop in the next couple of draws, and so you try to double Defender. But he's already got 2 in his hand, so he's got to just make something happen. Or his hand's going to get too clunky. This is sort of a really strange play. Huh.
Okay. What is he afraid of?
I don't think he's
why
afraid
is
of
that
anything.
buff still? Oh, sorry. Excuse me. I misread that.
You're thinking the Dark Iron Dwarf buff was
No, I was like, I see a buff. I see a Dark Iron Dwarf. I was like, is this glitched? Is Amaz breaking the game again? No. Absolutely.
This is, I guess he just wants to get a bigger taunt in play. That's really one of the only reasons I can see that you would do it this way. I guess your guy's gonna die to both of his minions regardless, so you don't really care that much. And having the 4/4 in play is also strong against potential animal companions. It's not like weak against Kill Command by any means. Your opponent's not thrilled to use Hunter's Mark in this spot. I guess when you take everything into an account, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I guess it's more of a making your opponent really uncomfortable play, and also now Amaz isn't really. He can kind of bait both traps here, or at least he can bait one of the traps and not really take that big losses. He has a hand that can refill really easily because of the hero power and constantly fill the board there. He picks up an Argent Squire, which is great with the Defender of Argus, and Divine Shield is very useful against things like Unleash the Hounds because they have to chew through it multiple times over. So, it seems like Amaz is starting to pick it up, but how does he kind of do this? I think proccing the trap is important. At the same time, though, how much do you want to kind of play into flooding the board and making yourself really vulnerable to Unleash the Hounds?
I was just about to mention he's really not under very much pressure at all. Your opponent's only got a 2/4 on the board, and they haven't hero powered you once. Like that life taps the first 2 points of damage you've taken. So I think at this point you can actually start affording to life tap, because even if he whiffed on this life tap, he has the option to just Knife Juggler and use the Ardent Square. But if he draws into something like Harvest Golem, you can potentially just play that instead.
Okay. And this is also, by the way, the reason why you want to sequence Freezing Trap before, Explosive Trap before Freezing Trap every time, because otherwise the Freezing Trap would proc, and then all of a sudden the Explosive Trap kills it anyway, so you basically 2 for 1 yourself. So make sure when you're sequencing it, Explosive Trap goes first. P.S.
If this spot fails sometimes for StrifeCro, it's like the game gets really bad. Like if Maz has Soulfire here, this game is like out of control. But it's just really fortunate he ends up not having Soulfire this time. Wow, he actually doesn't have any way to get through this.
Yeah, you only can stall.
This is just going to be some damage. Yeah, he's just going to have to take a lot of damage here.
Well, does StrifeCro have a way to put... Yeah, he does have the kill command. So he has a way to push through it and put massive damage on his opponent. Low tab also makes him very strong against something like Soulfire. But the kill command just allows him to push for so much damage at the moment.
Yeah, this is just one of those things that ends up being problematic if you're in the Warlock spot, is that if Hunter manages to get control of the board, it's a very heavy control of the board.
Wow, what a value Voidwalker. He opts to develop the board and shut down his ability to use anything, whether it's... If it's like one of those weird mid-range spell cards like Hellfire and Shadow Flame exist, then all of a sudden he's able to do something. But he realizes his Freezing Trap is able to kind of stall out this Harvest Golem and use this opportunity to develop the board.
Yep. That's a play here from Moss. This is sort of something that Mad Scientist does inconsequentially as well, is that sometimes it slows down the game. Like a lot of people feel like it's speeding it up because it's giving you such a big tempo boost, but it's like tempo doesn't necessarily mean getting one step ahead of your opponent. Tempo is just the pace of the game. So sometimes the tempo that Mad Scientist sets is that neither player are making very strong advances in terms of aggression. Like in this spot, Amaz is purely being defensive, And StrifeCro, because Amaz is able to be defensive, just has to continue to attack minions and hope that it ends up working out in his favor. Like, he's got to figure out a way to kill this board. He doesn't want the defender of Arcus to get freezing trapped. This Leok's probably going to have to get sacrificed. Or he's going to have to use the second kill command.
And it's getting to the point where StrifeCro is running out of cards, too. And it's not going to be able to refill it easily compared to the Warlock without, at least drawing really lucky back-to-back. So he's spending all of his resources on really making this work. Amaz is definitely not out of the woods. He still needs to deal with these huge threats. But there is going to be, an 8/3 creature with 5/2. Like, that's 13 damage plus what he can continue to draw off of. So Amaz can be in a tough position.
Oh, that's got to be the worst draw in his deck right now.
And wow, Void Terror doesn't help that much either.
Oh, this is brutal. He really needed something like Soulfire this turn.
Okay, well, he goes for the taunted play and tries to stall once again. He juggles on Lotheb, which kind of inconsequential at this point. Lotheb was most likely going to trade anyways.
Yep. He still doesn't want this defender to get freezing trapped, though, I don't think. So I wonder, is there any merit? I think just 8 damage is way too much, right?
I think this Hyena's been teased way too long. The Soulfire comes one turn too late, but taking a second to evaluate, how long did it take for this Hyena? It overkilled a Voidwalker, it overkilled the Nerubian Egg. So it's like, at this point, Amaz has played with like 50 health this game.
It's a tough spot.
Do you feel comfortable being able to life tap at all?
I don't think he really wants to life tap. This is something that's sort of, I find, wow, he just, wait, what?
Ooh.
I'm like, why isn't he just playing the Void Terror and taunting it? I think that was just a sequencing error, actually. That's really the only thing that would make a ton of sense to me. Because I don't see the justification behind life tapping right here. You're already down to 10. You have to put pressure on your board. You have to actually kill your opponent. This is just an unnecessary risk to take. So Amaz kind of realizing in hindsight that he may have played that a little bit too quickly. 6 points of power on the board, though. StrifeCro gets a Hunter's Mark. Explosive Trap in hand. This may be just too much pressure from the hero power for Amaz to be able to overcome. He's got to deal 28 damage over the course of the next couple turns. I don't know if he can make that happen, though. Houndmaster not going to be getting a ton of value here. But a 4/3 body, I think, is more than enough. He just got to... All he has to do is not die in the next couple of turns, and he wins the game strictly from his hero power. Pretty straightforward trades here from Amaz, but again, he needs damage to get it done, and he's about to get the bad news. This is an explosive trap, and that's going to be game 2 over to StrifeCro now. He takes a quick 2-0 lead. And now Amaz, he's down to Shaman and Priest. He's got to figure out a way to deal with this Hunter deck, or he's going to find himself falling behind. Unfortunately, Frodan is disconnected. We've been having a little bit of technical issues with him, so he'll be back with us shortly, hopefully. In the meantime, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be heading into Game 3, and we'll announce the next winner that we have for you guys. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. We're going to be working on the technical issues. Frodan is still not with us, so give us a moment. Be patient with us, guys. We'll be back as soon as possible, hopefully, with Frodan. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to myself, by the way. I'm sorry about that, a little bit of a brief drop of internet. It always happens once per cast. I don't know exactly why, but I try to look into it, but the ISP people just keep saying it's something on your end, which doesn't even make sense. Anyways, I'm back, and I don't know what happened exactly, Nathan, so can you fill me in?
Well, at the end of the game, it was just too much pressure for Amaz to deal with. He had to deal like 30 points of damage in the course of a couple turns while he was facing down pressure. And since he'd already taken so much damage, the consequence of the hero power was more than enough for him to deal with.
Sure, it makes sense. He was at 10 health last time I checked, and the Scavenging Hyena was just way too big. So now Amaz is down to Priest and the Shaman, two decks that he said matches up pretty well with the rest of what Hunter can do, but still not lopsided in any kind of way. It's still at best kind of even. So where does Amaz go from here? Because he still has to face other decks beyond this Hunter. Hunter's been pretty dominant. Even just yesterday, I was watching the DKMR Invitational, and Hunter was the one clean sweeping everybody, 3-0 and 4-1. How can this deck be stopped?
Well, I think the biggest way to stop it is to hope that Savannah Jaime doesn't hit the board and hope that they don't get a lot of early pressure. And when you have to take both of those things into account, that's something that's not going to happen very often. Honestly, I think that Mad Scientist is giving it a lot of help in terms of being able to fend off pressure when its draws are pretty poor, but it's not really doing a lot in terms of helping the deck get ahead. It's usually just always ahead anyway. When it helps is when it's struggling to find the right answers for board pressure. That's where a card like Mad Scientist ends up really adding up. So when you take that into account, it's kind of got all the tools it needs to deal with just about every position possible. It gets an early board lead. It can fight back from behind. It has a big draw engine with Starving Buzzard, and it has one of the most powerful and difficult to deal with 6-drops in the game right now with Savannah Jaime. So it's scaling from turn 1 and turn 6 extremely strong, and it's putting a lot of pressure on you afterwards if you're failing to answer that, because its hero power is doing twice as much damage as pretty much everyone else's hero power.
Not to mention the burst potential it always has with Kill Command and Leroy just to end the game, even if you're at 19 plus health. Sometimes you just die. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
And the fact that they can always load the board up with really big value cards like Houndmaster as well. So it's a really intimidating deck for Amaz to take on, but he's got at least one of his anchors. Priest is a deck that he is very fond of. Everyone knows it. He's played it thousands of times. You don't fear the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks once, but one kick 10,000 times. That's definitely Amaz in Hearthstone. Real quick, before we go into game number 3, want to announce the next winner of the shirt giveaway that's going on in the stream chat. So congratulations to Wampa_181ST, which I realize it's 181st. Now that I'm actually reading it as the whole thing. Congratulations, and claim it by PMing the Twitch channel and handle of Cooler Master Gaming. And we'll be giving away throughout the rest of the stream. So make sure to stick around and log into Twitch for your chance to win.
Yeah, so taking a look at the screens again, as you were saying, he's down to just as Shaman, just as Priest. And what it looks like to me is when he chose Warlock, is he's choosing the deck that he felt was strongest against Hunter. So I think he's going to do the exact same thing. So this is now going to give us a glimpse into, I think, how he's feeling. Does he think Priest or does he think Shaman's going to be stronger against Hunter? Honestly, right now, I think that they have different strengths for different reasons. Shaman has a very consistent answer to them if they can draw the right cards, and Priest just has a much stronger defensive setup than it used to have. So seeing whichever one of those he favors, I think is a big deal. At this point, since you're down 0-2, I would prefer to go with a comfort pick. So I would think he's going to pick Priest, even if Shaman is in reality a better matchup, which I'm not sure if it is right now. But I would just be going with a comfort pick here. You don't want it to go down. You don't want to go down 3 games and have to fight back in a 4-0 situation. But if there's someone who can do it, of course, it's someone playing on an expert class, someone like Amaz with Priest.
I'm completely agreeing with you there, Admiral. Let's go into game 3 and find out what happens here. Can Amaz start the comeback? Because he needs to win now. You know, going down 0-3, like you said, it's very difficult to pull back 4 wins in a row with 1 class and this much intel. Cool golden portion, by the way. Amaz has achieved that, and being able to showcase his proficiency with Priest once again at high-level play. But it seems like he's not the only one. People have kind of been accepting to it. Forsen's been playing a lot of Priest. Even guys from Tempo Storm been playing Priest. Guys from Cloud9 playing Priest. Kalento and Nimsh. Seems like more people are on favor of putting it higher up in the tournament tier lists.
Yeah, as we were touching on earlier, just got stronger. That bow, by the way, that he mulliganed away, and that he's now drawn in his first turn, is a very ugly sight. If you're in his position, you're just like, no, that's the last thing I wanted to draw.
Yeah, no, especially against Priest, where it kind of nullifies that extra damage. If it doesn't have anything to do anyways, it's usually kind of nullifying the bow damage. Now, we talked about starts being really crucial to this matchup, but it's a pretty slow start, and it looks like a pre-Nax setup for the Priest class, right? Before Nax Rammus, this is what Priest usually struggle with. The fact that they're just waiting for the combos. They don't have minions to do. They're just kind of trying to address the board. But now with stickier minions like Haunted Creeper, things like Circle of Healing and Akanai aren't even as strong as they used to be.
Yeah, this is sort of an interesting play too here. He instantaneously uses Smite, the Holy Smite on the Haunted Creeper. And his only concern, very apparently as a result of that, is getting to turn 5 and casting Holy Nova. Yeah. He wants the board to just be clean when he gets to that point.
I mean, he's forced to expend more resources to deal with these Death Rattle minions. And also the Mad Scientist put something into play, so StrifeCro doesn't lose the board completely. Even though, yes, he did lose his entire minions, he still has something to work off of.
Was that a snake trap?
Snake Trap actually was played a little bit. I know when Raynine was streaming, he tried experimenting with it because it was a really good tempo play sometimes, especially with some of the draws and, Houndmaster synergy. But I haven't really seen it that often in this kind of high-level play.
I'm pretty sure that was a Snake Trap.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, if he's playing Scavenging Hyena cards like that, it makes sense because Snake Trap has a lot of synergy in that department. And it's also one of those curveballs that people aren't expecting. So maybe it does a lot of work. Who knows?
Why'd it have to be snakes? That's what Harrison should say when he attacks against the snake trap.
Sure, or you can put like a Samuel L. Jackson card into Hearthstone. Who put all these mother trucking snakes on this mother trucking board? Sorry, that was the PG-13 version of Snakes on the Throne, by the way. Hearthstone's a family-rated game, last time I checked. It's like PG-6 or something like that.
Yeah, censored cussing is just as fine as cussing. The cussing's unacceptable. Censored is fine. No.
Sure.
Nobody knows what you were intending to say there. What was he thinking?
By the way, it's really important that StrifeCro kind of sees some of the cards that he's playing because he's not afraid of things like Flare. Thought-stealing Flare is usually one of the best ways to seize back the game against Hunter. So that way you nullify a big portion of their deck.
Yeah.
So now that he's seeing like the Web Spinner, I think StrifeCro's a lot less threatened.
I'm thinking about the difference between using Lotheb here and using your second and developing your second bow. And I'm not sure which one is better.
Well, you can see the bow as kind of a 3 damage or 3 mana 6 damage spell in a way, and kind of use it as your way to set up for lethal wins. I know that a lot of 100 players like Gara, for example, would always say sometimes second bow isn't a bow weapon for board control or even positioning. It's your third kill command. So it's your ability to kind of push for damage, especially if you have Leroy. Maybe Strife kind of uses that as his ability to end the game. By the way, this attack, total mind trap here by Amaz. Like, what is this? And I think he realizes this is snake trap because he's already played a minion, so it's not snipe. And attack is not misdirection, freezing, or explosive. So it's like, whoa, he's playing snake trap.
Yeah, he realizes it's snake trap at this point. It's the only thing it could be. The thing about it is once you're in this position, you're like, wait a minute. I played a minion. I attacked him. It wasn't misdirect. It's not. I'm not forgetting anything, am I? Like, that's the sort of mindset that you go through when you're in that spot.
I don't know.
You don't want to forget anything. But
it's kind of mind-boggling.
Not really many plays as far as I'm concerned. You just Haunted Creeper, heal yourself, attack him, and pass. Wow.
Oh my.
That is strange.
Going for the power word shield. He doesn't want to play into things like Unleash the Hound, I suppose, because Lotheb could attack into Haunted Creeper, and then there's 4 minions to unleash. So I think Amaz wants to minimize the amount of value given, but he basically gave up 5 mana in order to advance that play, and it doesn't really accomplish that much. Savannah Highmane pickup, by the way, for StrifeCro, which is very important because he lacked a lot of meat to his hand, and all of a sudden he gets the biggest meat possible on the market.
I don't really understand the power word shield play still. Like, even if your opponent does make the play where they unleash the hounds, like, I would rather them unleash the hounds now than later. And if they have Blizzard unleash the hounds, you're pretty much stuck anyway because your opponent, like, are you just committing to the fact that you can't play anything on the board anymore? That doesn't make a lot of mana sense to me. Like, now he's missed a turn of development. He missed 2 points of healing. And he could have just cast the Power Word Shield this turn for 1 mana. I don't really get it.
It is a little creative. It's something we can probably ask him later if we do get a winner's interview, by the way. He picks up Injured Blade Master, so he has a way to kind of push out a good, strong minion, and he can also deal with the Lotheb by Shadow or Death. But, at certain stages, too, you want to make sure to be able to heal and kind of stay out of range of these combos potentially. You're starting to count how much damage can you do if he Leroy's kill commands and does some other stuff. So I think he's going to also slow play this a little bit, try to squeeze into heals, and I'd be in favor of that as well.
Yeah, especially with the Mind Control in your hand. If you get to a point where you get to Mind Control something relevant, I think in this matchup and you're at all stabilized, that you find yourself in a very heavily favored position at that point. That's something that's kind of more to the point too, is like, if you want to continue healing a lot, why are you wasting a turn casting a 6-mana Power Word Shield instead of healing?
All right, well, he's going to opt for the minion. I think it's okay too, because you're also usually afraid of Freezing Trap, but it's already shown that your opponent doesn't have Freezing Trap on the board yet. We know StrifeCro has it in his hand, so he has an effective way to deal with it. But if he plays a Freezing Trap, he gives up his ability to develop the Savannah Highmane, so there is a give or take there.
Yeah, Savannah's still kind of fine here too, because you have the Snake Trap. You're not exactly worried about it.
Mm-hmm. The only thing you are afraid of is Shadow Word Death Holy Nova combo, because he will be on 8 mana.
Right, he just saw Shadow Word Death too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot of He's got a lot of different lines here, honestly. It seems like a really easy turn to just play Savannah Highmane and pass, but he has to consider the value of how much his hero power adds up. As well as
what is that one card? Do you feel like there's ever playing around whatever your opponent thought stole as well? Because Hunter has some of the best tools to beat Hunter.
That's
interestingly
so hard to
enough.
It's so hard to play around thought stole cards because you just have no idea what they're nabbing.
Sure.
It's not something that you can anticipate them playing. It's just like a total random thing, especially once you've already seen them play something. Like if he's been holding a card this long, the card always feels to me like it's something like Hunter's Mark or maybe even Kill Command.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. By the way, he picks up Emperor Cobra, a card that's been toyed around with here and there, whether it's like Ramp Druids, like Guard, try that a little bit. But now we see it not that uncommonly because of things like Web Spinner. You're able to kind of get these unique cards. Sludge Belcher, another big card that people have been picking up from Next Rammus, not only because of its just raw stats, but its ability to try and disrupt the flow of the game. Hunter has to chew through it twice, use another edition of a bow, or get a little bit of something extra. And I think that's just a very valuable card to pick up for Amaz.
Yeah, this was a really important turn for him. And really speaking to the potential, like normally in the old Priest decks, we were seeing that slot be taken up by just cards like Azure Drake. You just needed a 5-mana minion that was strong. And imagine Azure Drake on this board position instead of Sludge Belcher. It just would be just like borderline atrocious.
Pitifully weak. And it is interesting because I feel like Amaz doesn't play with many Next Rammus cards in his priest deck. I've been seeing a lot of the same cards that we normally come to expect from Amaz and how people kind of copied his deck list. He seems to have Sludge Belchers, but he's not playing like Zombie Chow. He's not playing like the Death Lords, or I haven't even seen a Dark Cultist, which I imagine is in his deck, but I haven't really seen much of it. So it seems like Amaz is still playing a pretty standard priest versus this new retooled, revamped hunter that's been putting everyone on notice on the ladder. So it's interesting how it's kind of stacking up and holding its own a little bit, despite not showing too much innovation.
A lot of the difference you're seeing too between the older priests and the one you're seeing now is that a lot more mind control is getting played because the format's slowed down. I think that's one of the biggest influences it's even made to Priest, is that it allows that card to be there again. Mm-hmm. Priest always had a really easy time swinging the game at certain points, but it was really missing a strong turn 10 swing play.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
He picks up a Holy Fire, which is a very important 10 damage swing sometimes.
Yes, a very important one right now. So this is actually like a spot where I feel like you want... Like, you have to know that one of these is Freezing Trap or Explosive Trap. So I feel like your first order of business is to attack this Haunted Creeper with, as painful as this sounds, your Injured Blade Master.
Yes. Because if it's not, then you set up a really good Holy Nova anyways.
Right.
But you need to take care of this high main as highest priority. You're also developing the board too.
Right.
Snake Trap comes out, and this is the point where Maz's like, okay, well, I knew this was the entire case, but... boy, is that a curveball that didn't really go StrifeCro's way.
Yeah, this is the exact turn that Amaz wanted to happen.
And no beast left over either, by the way. So Houndmaster isn't exactly strong unless StrifeCro picks up something like Animal Companion.
Yep. Oh, that's painful.
Well, is this a clash challenge of Next Rammus Soul Adventure, or is this a show match best of 7 between two of the best players in the world? I don't know.
You know, it's painful this turn, but I think he's kind of happy that he's getting the other Web Spinner out of his deck. And honestly, I don't even see Hunter's Mark being that big of a difference in this game. So I think he's kind of happy to get that out of his deck as well. I think he just wants to continue to draw business spells.
Web Spinner, by the way, is a liability sometimes because of things like Cabal Shadow Priest, which has seen a lot of increase in play in Priests with all the low drops, low attack minions, and the death rattle effects that you get benefit afterwards. So, you know, having 2 Web Spinners all the time is not exactly the best insurance this late in the game.
Yeah, I imagine he's got it. It's hard to not take Web Spinner here just because you're lacking so much on the board. But Hunter's Mark is like, it's a card that you're going to really want to have. Like, if you pass up your other Hunter's Mark, you're sitting in a position where you know it's no longer in your deck. Wow, and speaking of Cabal Shadow Priest, he doesn't take... I think that factored into his decision to take the Hunter's Mark as well. I was just about to talk about that. I mean, that was... You called it. This was like the one play that he needed to avoid to get absolutely swept out in these last couple of turns, at least in my opinion, was avoiding a big Cabal Shadow Priest. But Amaz, this isn't even like the easiest turn for him. He's down to 13 life, so he's facing the potential of some Leroy damage coming out. And since your Hunter opponent is just hero powering, I think there's a really good chance that you anticipate something like Unleash the Hounds being in his range, or maybe even Leroy, and that he's looking for one piece or the other to put the rest of the damage together. So this turn is a lot less about which minion he should play and a lot more about whether or not he should Holy Fire.
Holy Fire would bring him back up to 20, just heals himself. But it doesn't give him an ability to set up for a next turn win unless he draws like Ragnaros and pulls some Maz magic. So it is a little bit tough. As much as you want to survive, you also want to figure out the best way to increase your chances to win if your opponent doesn't have exactly what he needs to win the next turn.
Yep.
Is there a way to even do that? I don't think so. He's going to go for the passive play, defensive one. And 20 health is pretty comfortable if all your opponent has is the Spectral Spider.
Oh,
ooh.
Wow. This is going to be an Unleash turn. But if you Unleash that, you can't play Leroy, Unleash, and Houndmaster this turn. Oh my gosh.
Just play a naked Houndmaster. It is 4 attack, so it gives trouble in that department.
Yeah, Priests have no way to deal with 4 attack minions.
Well, he can mind control it, I guess. That's one way to deal with the 4 attack minion.
Not a bad. I don't think this is a bad mind control turn at all. If that's the turn you just saw. At that point, you have to know that your opponent is running on some sort of Unleash potential, and that they really have to make a push for the game.
Actually, he's going to go for the Thought Steal. He gets Starving Buzzard, which is pretty useless.
Wow.
Unless you want to put a little bit more damage. And Mad Scientist, which doesn't fetch any secrets. So
Thought
Amaz
Steal.
just has minions.
Thought Steal is
Wow.
awful against Hunter.
God, it's the best and worst card against Hunter sometimes. That
Oh my gosh.
is painful. That is brutal because now all of a sudden his choices become really difficult on how to deal with this Houndmaster. This gamble did not pay off whatsoever for Maz. He was hoping for something, maybe even a kill command to just answer directly, and then, also this does fish some information. Like he knows his opponent doesn't have probably the Buzzard Unleashed, maybe, and the fact is he kind of sees his opponents running out of actual threats. So this is intel for Amaz, but how do you kind of go from here?
I think you just lost at this point. Honestly, he really needed an answer to come out that turn, and as it's standing, he's going to be facing that much damage. I think this is almost lethal. 6 + 5 + 2 + 4. Oh my gosh, and even drew Buzzard.
Well, let's see, how does he go from here? I mean, Amaz is just trying to heal up, but he still doesn't have a way to win the game.
He's got 6 from Leroy. He's got 4 from Houndmaster. He's 2 off.
12. He's 2 off from lethal at the moment. He's going to draw, though, and maybe piece it up. He still has one more high main as far as we remember.
Yep.
He's going to draw the rest of his deck with this move.
That's basically, I think that's the objective. I mean, you find the rest of your deck, how hard is it to lose at that point?
Do you want to draw that one extra card, or are you going to use the Hunter's Mark here?
I think you're more than happy to use the Hunter's Mark.
Well, when you have 2. Yeah, Houndmaster and Kill Command, a very important card to finish the game after this is all over, and that's where even Starving Buzzard has some utility. So Amaz is on the ropes.
Yep, that one looks good. Brutal, brother.
Amaz needs like a second Holy Nova or something to kind of stabilize, heal up a little bit.
Yep.
Wild Pyromancer.
No spells though. Oh my gosh.
If only he drew some spells off of the Thought Steal, or even had Thought Steal.
All right. So he can mind control Leroy, attack the 4/3, and attack the 1/1 and the 2/1. Puts himself at 9. But he's basically giving up his entire board position that way. And he has to find a way to fend off all the damage his opponent's going to throw at him for the rest of the game. But he doesn't have a follow-up to the mind control. So what card does he need to draw to be able to win the turn after this game? Does he have to draw Holy Nova here?
He has to draw Holy Nova, Holy Fire, or something to stabilize a little bit, and then something to like Ragnaros.
StrifeCro's hand isn't exciting, but he's already drawn enough cards. I think he's more than happy with the fact that his Buzzard's just a beast.
Yeah, and so it becomes a 4/3 off the Houndmaster.
Yep.
You put your opponent on a very noticeable turn, and his opponent will have to have that Holy Nova, you're right. That is the only way for Amaz to live, I think, from this point on.
My gosh. Do you even develop the explosive trap here? I don't think you do. If your opponent
I don't see a reason why not to, though.
I just don't think you need to. Or just put a little bit more doubt in your opponent's mind.
Say he wants to be hero powering every turn, so say he draws like Savannah High Main, your opponent has a heal up, and you want to be kill commanding plus hero powering, so in this scenario, you kind of want to do something else. By the way, he draws one way to deal with a threat, but still doesn't have 2. But at the same time, he kills a beast, so StrifeCro still doesn't have or wait, does he? Oh, he does have it, excuse me. He does have hero power. So I think that's going to be it, because Amaz has no other way to live past this, and StrifeCro is going to go up 3-0.
Wowie. Look at that damage. Consistent, heavy pressure throughout the entire course of the game. But, honestly, with this game, I feel like Amaz was pretty lucky to have the Akanai Circle on turn 4, but his pan out afterwards was pretty awful. He didn't really have any strong swing turns going in. Freezing Trap put a big dent in his plans the entire way through, and StrifeCro once again had a very strong lead. And the turns that he started stumbling were the turns that Amaz was also stumbling as well. So I think when both decks are in that position, Hunter has a slight advantage because it's keeping parity with its opponent's hero power, and it's getting small things on the board. So even the small things are going to add up to a little bit of damage. So sort of. It's honestly, it's kind of unlucky for both these players to have stumbled so much going into like the turn 7, 8, 9 point. But at the end of the day, it shows that this powerful draw engine that Hunter had, which was a Starving Buzzard, was the difference maker in this game.
And it's funny you mentioned that. I was like thinking it's a little bit of a scrappy game, right? They were just trying to make do with what they have. In the late stages, you're hound mastering your Buzzard because you want to put pressure to end the game. So like that's the kind of resources you have to use at disposal when it's not like a natural curve where it's Web Spinner into Haunted Creeper into Animal Companion. It's a Houndmaster and Coin Savannah Highway. Like those are the games where Hunter just steamrolls, but when you don't have it and your opponent doesn't have it, you still can kind of recover as well. And that's kind of goes back to how Amaz prepared even his Priest deck. Reading an interesting interview that Go To Gamers did with a former Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer saying cards like Thought might be even overrated because you get cards that you don't have. You're not playing minions. You might just get useless cards, and it's just a strictly worse Arcane Intellect some of the times. That was exactly what happened here to Amaz. So not having some of these really strong Death Rattle minions that you kind of use to bolster the ranks of Priest in the early and mid game really went to bite Amaz in the butt because he only had combo pieces. He had spells and ways to activate his minions through other spells.
Right. We saw him draw a Web Lord, a Starving Buzzard, and a Mad Scientist off 3 of his Thought Steal cards. Not the kind of spot you want to be in, I think.
So Amaz is down 0-3, and we'll have to win 4 straight with his Shaman deck. Before we go to break, we want to announce the next winner of the shirt giveaway. So congratulations to Cure Royale 27. Make sure to PM the channel name, which is Cooler Master Gaming, and then get your free shirt. And if you haven't entered already, all you have to do is log into Twitch, and you'll be eligible to win. So do that while we take a quick break and see if Amaz can turn it back. He's down 0-3. Find out what happens right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the CM Storm Best of 7 show match between StrifeCro and Amaz. Amaz is down 0-3, and we'll have to rely on his Shaman to 4-0. Can he do it? Yes, but it's going to be difficult because not only is he down 0-3, he's down 0-3 against StrifeCro, who's been playing immaculately. I haven't really seen any kind of really faulty misplays whatsoever on StrifeCro's end. He's playing solid, good Hearthstone, and Amaz just hasn't been able to finagle himself out of tight situations yet because his Hunter is unrelenting with its pressure, as we've seen on ladder and now in high-level play.
Yeah, it's been pulling out pretty much every single stop. As we were talking about earlier, it's got game plans throughout every kind of scenario you can think of, whether you're playing from behind, whether you're building an overwhelming board position, whether you have to have big swing turns and push your opponent to the game, or even just have big bursts to end it. Hunter's kind of got it all. It's kind of got it all right now, and it's got the consistency to boot.
Is this Amaz's fault for not banning Hunter and opting to go for Mage instead?
It could be, but when he sees a Mage in his opponent's lineup and his Hunter gets banned, I don't really know what the ban order was, or if there has to be a ban order, I imagine. So if he sees that his Hunter gets banned, or even if he just anticipates his Hunter's going to get banned, he's like, you know what, I actually might lose to this Mage deck here. This is just, honestly, I think at the end of the day, when you ban something like Mage or you ban something like Hunter, when you're kind of going into this, you have to just give credit to StrifeCro for having a really strong lineup.
Yeah.
Because it's just like an attack. Right, it's like an attack on both sides. It's like, I'm going to ban your Hunter, and now I have Hunter and I have Mage, so which one do you want to ban? And I think since most people are going to be lining up their decks against Hunter, in terms of their mid-game scaling strategy, that really makes them weak against something like Mage, I imagine, where it gives them the time to build up to these stronger turns they need, where it's like Alexstrasza into an Archmage followed by a couple of spells, and then just having burn spells to pick you off while they sit behind an ice block. And they don't have to worry about a Hunter from the opposing lineup because they intend to ban that. So this is just, I think, a really strong lineup building from StrifeCro.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think it's really clever because of how it mind games your opponent into letting you play Hunter, perhaps. At least that's what Amaz has brought the wrath upon himself. Game number 4 is about to begin, guys. And I know a lot of people are cheering for Amaz. He is probably the second or most popular Twitch streamer, depends on what time of the day it is, for Hearthstone. So a lot of people are cheering for him, but a lot of people who really respect StrifeCro plays have been recognizing he's been one of the best from the very beginning and showing once again why that is. Let's go into game 4 and find out if StrifeCro is going to go for the sweep, or will Amaz be able to at least win 1 or maybe even 4 games here. We've seen it last week, right? Savitz was down 0-3, and he used Hunter of all things to 4-0 Reynad. Now Amaz will have to rely on Shaman to do the same thing.
Oh, weird. It's almost like Hunter's really strong right now.
Huh, man, maybe I should play some Hunter on ladder. I don't think anyone's thought of that yet, huh?
I feel like it was just 2 weeks ago that we were talking about how strong Miracle Rogue was.
I know. Those days were so good, right?
Nax cards have made a huge impact. And again, the biggest reason I think is just because of consistency. Decks have
I like
very distinct game plan moving through the first couple turns of the game. They always want to apply pressure.
I just like how the meta has slowed down to make it a little bit more difficult, because you have a lot of disruption now. Before, the game felt very mapped out, right, from turns 1 to 5, especially when you had things like Druid and Miracle Rogue. It was Miracle Rogue stalling out until they get gadgets in, and Druids making sure they have Wild Growth and Innervate, and kind of just dropping big creatures. Now it's all of a sudden you have Lotheb on specific turns to disrupt. You have Mad Scientist to break up the tempo. These kinds of cards are really cool to see how they interact with a lot of the minions. By the way, a Leok coming out here to give him a little buff is a little tricky, but at least it's not Huffer, right? Huffer feels like it's pretty awful a lot of times when your opponent has easy removal and a Harvest Golem staring at you.
Yeah. I would be a little bit surprised if this Mad Scientist didn't attack this Harvest Golem. But at the same time, it's like you're not excited to do it because it's like, is a freezing trap even good right here?
Not really. Not on the damage golem, the Harvest Golem itself, but I mean that damage golem did its work essentially.
Yeah, Amaz is more than happy to make that trade. And he's kind of got the hand that's really going to fend off one of these Hunter draws very well. He's got spot removal spells into a Lotheb, into a Hex, or something like Savannah Highmane. But StrifeCro, this is like the way next level here, is Snake Trap. Yeah, so he's going to be able to counter apply that pressure that we were talking about is so hard from Hunters to come back from when they get picked apart with something like Snake Trap. This is fantastic deck building so far.
All right, Houndmaster on this just seems pretty fair, and you might even bait out something like Hex before Savannah Highmane comes out too, which is, I mean, you don't obviously want to lose too many minions, but at least it's not on your high mains. And then if Shaman doesn't have a way to deal with it, they can be in big trouble. Amaz immediately reaches for his Earth Shock and tries to go for the spot removal. And he's going to choose to kill off the Leok and use Lightning Bolt, so all of his removal pretty much comes out here, and he's able to put on pressure. That's what Shaman needs to do. You can't take any damage, really, unnecessarily from Hunter, because you don't have healing mechanics. At
this point, though, he's pretty far ahead, so he feels comfortable with what's happening. But again, I think this Snake Trap is actually going to sway the game.
Ooh.
It's been a long time since I think I've ever even come close to saying something like this, but I think Snake Trap is going to be the difference in winning and losing this game.
A long time? Have you've said that before in the past? Is that what
yeah, there was a point I remember when Buzzard was a 2/2, and Snake Trap got played a lot during that time because you had to attack it, you couldn't hero power it. So it ended up like your minions got attacked a lot. I felt like in that scenario, so it was like Buzzard and then Snake Trap was really common, and so you just got 3/1/1s and you drew 3 cards. And that was also prior to the Unleash the Hounds change. That was when Unleash the Hounds was still +1/+0. And charge to
that's right.
yeah.
That's right. That's right.
3/1/1s. 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 3/1/1s.
Good times, man. Rest in peace, Chan, man. StrifeCro draws into the Haunted Creeper, so it continue to build his board, make it a little bit more resistant, because you are sometimes afraid of Lightning Storm, but it seems like his opponent doesn't really have that immediately. He just drops a Gnomish Inventor. His hand seems to be good at addressing things, but in terms of setting up the initiative, it's kind of weak here for the Hunter player. So StrifeCro not really getting a good draw with that Haunted Creeper, but at least it's something to play.
Yeah, I imagine this is the point where you probably just make a push for damage. I don't think that you can afford to wait around and try to answer your opponent's board position. Like maybe one of these snakes can attack into the damage golem, but other than that, you have to really you kind of sort of got to start putting the pedal down and hoping that it works out for you.
God, how annoying is this Hunter deck, by the way? So many of these like small 1/1 creatures, whether it's hounds, snakes, spiders, it's just the grossest type of creatures available on the entire world of Warcraft. Just continue to annoy your opponent. Defender of Arc is getting good value, by the way, and being able to get 2 targets while setting up 8 health of taunt, so this is really nice. It seems like StrifeCro is continuing to draw. Oh, we got his buzzard. I was gonna say he was drawing poorly, but this buzzard can change a lot of things.
My gosh. I think that buzzard is a pretty huge draw right now. If he finds a Hunter's Mark off of this, or even something like a Timberwolf, this game can really change.
He's got one way to
do it.
Continue.
Oh, and there's a Hunter's Mark. Oh my gosh.
You can continue pushing draws too with the Hunted Creeper. Or does he want to even start hero power? I think you kind of want to continue loading, draw that extra card. Maybe you pick up a second kill command or even Leroy. Low-Tab is nice too, so that way you can deny your opponent's ability to play a lot of spells, which Shaman excels at with all these cheap one mana cost stuff.
Yep, just keep chewing apart minions.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of turn he needed to get back into the game, by the way. He was falling so far behind in terms of actual health and power on the board. The cards were where he was really lacking. So it's like now that he's gotten to this point, the cards are a bit more even, but his card quality is really high. And that's the kind of thing that he needed to really get this game back in order. Because he was almost completely out of it if he didn't draw that buzzard, I think.
Undertaker, by the way, is included inside of Amaz's deck. Another card that's been recently introduced in the past few weeks, and been with the proliferation of death rattles with Haunted Creeper, and people playing Harvest Golems all the time to Rubian Egg. Undertaker's seen a little bit more play, whether it's in Hunter or even Zoo, and now Shaman.
Yeah,
Any
that's
thoughts
sort
on
of.
this?
Well, it's sort of it's telltale of a couple things to me. The first one is that he's not running Ardent Squire. And the second one is that if he's running Harvest Golem and a lot of other Death Rattle minions, then he might not actually have something like Unbound Elemental in his deck. His major concern might just be having strong Death Rattle minions throughout the course of the game.
Sure.
And make sure he can follow up that way. Oh my gosh, is that another buzzard? Not that that's like a huge...
It is.
Not that that's a huge spot right now, but now he's got a couple draws in his deck that are just bonkers at this point. Like any chain of... Yeah, any chain of beasts or Unleash the Hounds is just going to be it's disgusting amount of cards in hand. At this point, though, you got to be worried about something like Hex. So how much are you weighing playing Lotheb over playing Savannah Highmane at this point?
That's a really tough question. Because Lotheb also has his own drawbacks as well. Because you're not immune to things like Fire Elemental and then gaining really easy board position off of that. So Lotheb doesn't even make you really immune. It's really about which cards are you going to play around. Stuff like Fire Elemental or stuff like Hex. Savannah Highmane being hovered over, which is okay. As long as he's hero powering, by the way, it's also really important because that way he gets within kill command range. Things like Explosive Trap also might be really key to set up good, powerful turns in the future with Unleash the Hounds and some of the other stuff. What really sucks, too, is also that Healing Tome, so that way he can't set something up nicely with Explosive Trap.
Right.
All right, well, there's not a better target to Hex, in my opinion. Maybe if he top decks King Crush off of a web spinner. Only thing better than be like King Crush off of a web spinner, but even then, you want to gain the tempo already by just using Hex immediately and then fighting for the board position.
Yeah, I got a King Crush the other day and attacked a warrior 3 times with it and lost anyway.
How?
Web spinner. I didn't have anything else going on. It was just the King Crush, and he had like 30.
You just had King Crush.
Yeah. I was like, yes, I drew King Crush. And I was like, oh, it's not doing anything right now.
It doesn't matter how King Crush. I totally understand that.
Had King Crush.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter at Crush.
Good summertime flags. StrifeCro picks up a bow, which allows him to kind of continue to press a little bit if he's able to chew through. But now it's starting to get to the point where Shaman's board is a little intimidating, and he doesn't have the exact way to deal with a big player because he doesn't have Unleash the Hounds just yet. Maybe Amaz can turn this around, because now if he drops Lotheb, it becomes really difficult. You can't really Buzzard Unleash unless you oh no, you do have 10 mana. Never mind. Excuse me. He does have it.
Is he going to play Explosive Trap instead of Lotheb? Oh, is he just gonna try to kill him? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So 2 from Hero Power, 2 from Explosive Trap, 3 more from Bow. That's 7 damage, and then 2 more the following turn. That's 9. Wow, that's 15 with Starving Buzzard and Kill Command. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think Amaz just died.
Let's see how he top decks. He could surprise us, but Lightning Storm is not it. He does have Lotheb to kind of throw the cost of the spells, but I think that's enough anyways, right? Oh no, he doesn't have a beast. No, if he plays Lotheb, he can't Kill Command and drop the Buzzard and Hero Power, I think. So he's going to be short a little bit of damage.
But remember, he's got to actually push through at this time too. So this gives him an extra turn, but he's already going to be taking the attack damage from here, which is the relevant part of this. That actually needed to be a taunt totem.
Yeah, he needed to be exactly what you're saying. That taunt totem would have been really clutch. Maybe Amaz can survive. Leroy off the top still is lethal as well.
Amaz has got to draw 4 damage next turn, right? So like Doomhammer could do it. A second Flame Tongue could do it. Alakir could win the game. Even something like as crazy as Bloodlust, or even if he draws something like Lightning Bolt, he could roll Spell Power. So this Lotheb actually could. This may have given him the turn that he needs to win this game. At this point.
Well, hold on. The jury is kind of out on that one still, because StrifeCro still has some tools to weaken the damage. Utilizing the bow as a way to kind of kill off the Flame Tongue totem if he feels like he's threatened of dying. So that way he restricts the amount of damage the opponent could draw into the win. Not to mention that Lotheb increased the cost of spells, so StrifeCro might utilize the Lotheb to disrupt once again. And this is where Lotheb's, his timing is really important for these games, so that way you can determine what's the best way to set yourself up for the win. Now with Buzzard, Kill Command, and the Hero Power and the Bow, unless his opponent is able to kind of do something dramatic, he can't do anything.
My gosh, he drew Feral Spirits, and that's going to stop damage from the Eagle Horn Bow. And StrifeCro's going to be 1 damage short of actually killing him now.
Taunt Totem would be nice too.
And he rolls a Taunt Totem.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Well, StrifeCro still can draw something like the Unleash the Hounds and push through with maybe double Kill Command. I don't know. Maybe, perhaps. No, he doesn't have enough mana to do that. That would be 10.
He's going to have to draw some damage, or he's going to be dead. Because he's facing down 8 points of damage this turn. Oh my goodness.
But he has tracking. He has tracking to kind of maybe push through second Kill Command. Maybe second Kill Command plus Hero Power would be enough. So there's a lot of outs here for StrifeCro, in my opinion. There's 4 cards, or maybe even more if he picks up second tracking.
He's got, just the tracking alone is going to be able to see 4 cards next turn.
Yep.
To find a way to kill Amaz. He needs 1 extra point of damage.
By the way, a tough decision. Amaz trying to feel like, what can he really die to? Is it kind of worth pushing for damage, setting yourself to potentially win the following turn? You don't even have a guarantee to lethal from the hand if things go poorly. He's going to go for the trade, a defensive move. And now StrifeCro, it's a moment of truth, but now he picks up the damage to win. He has tracking. Keep in mind, second Kill Command is game. The Leroy shows up, but he can't push through everything. And unfortunately, doesn't even have Unleash the Hound. StrifeCro has kind of whiffed on this tracking to end the game.
He whiffs, but he's not facing lethal next turn. And that's what Amaz gave up when he made this attack. He gave up 5 points of damage on his opponent. His opponent would be at 8 health, and he would have 8 damage with the minions sitting on the sideline. So he would have lost this tracking because Leroy Jenkins would have been lethal with Lotheb attacking into one of the wolves, and then the bow attacking into one of the wolves, and then Leroy Jenkins to finish the job with Hero Power. But he gave up a really large position in terms of being able to kill his opponent the following turn. And it's like, just like you wait a minute, he has the totem in play. No, he wouldn't even have died to Leroy. I think this is just like a big oversight by Amaz here, because he could have just killed his opponent next turn and he was safe from basically everything.
Wait, are you sure? Because the outside kill command, was he able to squeeze everything through with Leroy kill command and hero power with the tracking?
That's what I'm saying. Amaz would have had the game this turn because his opponent had to go through 3 taunts. So it would have been 1 damage off lethal.
No, so I think he would have been dead either way. He had Lotheb, plus he had the bow, plus he had the kill command, so he would have been able to shape shoot through, and Leroy hero power would have finished him. Amaz stayed alive. He actually did stay alive, but now as a result, he made the right play, but it won't matter. StrifeCro has 4-0'd Amaz decisively with his Hunter deck. Despite a few close games, Amaz has brought it down to the wire a few times, but not enough to win any single games in this entire set. So StrifeCro is going to take it 4-0, and he's going to win $700 to take home for today.
Well, that's an extremely well-played match, honestly. I want to go back and reconstruct that turn for a minute, because so much is happening. Okay, so StrifeCro has 2 wolves that have taunt, and he has 0-2 in play. So if his opponent has the Leroy, as you were suggesting, I think he's actually 1 mana off being able to do everything, because Leroy is going to cost 4 mana. Kill command is going to cost 3 mana.
Hero power is 2, and then that's 9. So tracking 9. Actually allows it to squeeze it just barely.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah,
by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, there was no way Amaz could have climbed out of that one in that specific sequence of cards. But I still think he's supposed to attack his opponent's face though, because in the situation you're in, if kill command is the only thing you're worried about, you actually have to kill your opponent the next turn. If in the rest of the range, you still can't play around the rest of his range anyway, because it's all of it's killing you at that point.
Well, you're bringing up a good point, because you're closing your own window to end the game. As much as you're staying alive, you're keeping your window open. You're also closing your own in a very weird, paradoxical manner. So I completely understand what you're saying. Amaz made the play to survive, but he didn't put himself in the best percentage chance to win.
Right.
Granted that Hunter has things like tracking, and that's why tracking feels so good sometimes, because in those late game scenarios, you pick up the exact card you need to win the game. So StrifeCro takes it 4-0, and I believe we do have an interview with him coming up, but not before we mention another t-shirt winner and of our mice winners for the CM Storm gear. Congratulations to Josh Lee Mann. You are the winner of a t-shirt, PM Cooler Master Gaming, the moderator of this channel. And congratulations to the 2 mice winner, and Adam Maka and Andrew Moreno. This is a giveaway that's been going on the Facebook, which is listed here on the channel. So make sure to go ahead and like them for future opportunities to win. Looks like we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll have an interview with the winner of the best of 7, which is StrifeCro. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to the CM Storm Best of 7 show match Aftermath. We have a little bit of an interview aftermath party here with StrifeCro. He is on the line and ready to talk about some of this game. Colin, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up? I can hear you fine.
Great, wonderful. Well, hey, man, so Hunter is still pretty good. This just in, you 4-0'd, and yesterday we actually saw some other pros doing really well with Hunter. And I think people were kind of really wondering immediately how you kind of prepared for this post-Next Rammus release, because people were a little bit surprised to see Mage being brought in. Was it kind of like a strategy right off the bat with the well-rounded lineup of if you ban Hunter, you have to play Mage, and you ban their Hunter, or vice versa? Can you give some insight?
Yeah, well, I guess basically Mage has always been kind of my favorite class, even though I'm kind of known as kind of like a Druid player or whatever. Like, it's just because during a lot of that time when I was playing Druid a lot, Mage has just been weak. I mean, there's been some Mage decks throughout the time, but what I really like playing is Control Mage, like slow, creature grindy Control Mage, and
Mhm.
so pretty much after Duplicate came out and Mad Scientist, I spent like the whole week on ladder playing like this Control Mage deck. But like I pretty much never won against Hunter. I had maybe like 10% win rate against Hunter. Because I was running like 6, 7 secrets and I've even gotten 3 secrets flared by 1 flare. so
Oh
it's
my
like so
god.
it's like yeah. But what I have noticed though is that mage deck seemed really strong against anything that was not a Hunter. Like for example, like it's kind of like a freeze mage, but say you're playing against control warrior, which is kind of like a hard counter to the old freeze mage. If you're in this kind of like freeze mage where like you have the same kind of freeze and control style, but instead of the um instead of the burn, basically like the ice lances and fireballs and frost bolts, you have these like really grindy creatures that duplicate. And I noticed that if you ever duplicate like any one of your bigger creatures, you can't ever lose in the fatigue war. So it's really cool. But then so preparing for the tournament, I didn't have a lot of super strong decks because I spent like pretty much the whole time playing mage. Um, but then yeah, I decided that yeah, just ban Hunter. That way I can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Hunter is like kind of the strongest deck anyways right now, and then I can actually just play that mage in comfortably. Then I played my own Hunter as well. I think after he sold my 5 decks, he was like trying to. I think he knew I was going to ban Hunter, so maybe he was kind of worried about some kind of mage like that. And the
Mhm.
mage pick got a bait on the ban. Interesting enough, my hunter wasn't even running flare because I was just playing a band hunter. So, you
Oh
know,
wow. So the ban bait ends up 4-0ing. Not bad, not bad. Nathan, do you have a question for StrifeCro?
Yeah, I was kind of wanted to get your opinion on cards like Flare in the meta right now. Like, what's the difference between playing Flare in a tournament and playing Flare on ladder, and like how much of an impact that it not only influences just hunter builds but just your builds in general.
yeah, I mean, flare is like a huge metagame changer right now. It pretty much makes, say, very heavy secret mage like unplayable in ladder. But like a metagame like a tournament is completely different than ladder because, like, for one, you have a potential ban, but even if you don't ban, they can only play a hunter once, like 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. So you can say just avoid the mage versus hunter, and so it's all those decks are playable. Um, as far as like Flare being in my hunter or not, like I guess Flare, if I was gonna ban hunter 100%, like Flare is probably good against mage. I guess I wasn't really even thinking about like mage and paladin, and paladin would only be good if they're winning secrets as well. So I mean, I think I just saw like a hunter list like this on like Reddit or something. I think the list I saw like had 2 flares instead of 2 trackings. I just kind of replaced the 2 trackings with 2 flares. I mean, other way around, because obviously tracking is better if you're not planning on playing against other hunters or I guess any secret stuff. I had 1 snake trap and 1 freezing trap. I think that was just basically because it was like a best of 7 or best of 5. So it was going to be like a very long series, and having like a variety of cards like that can make it hard for the other player, like some mind games and stuff like that. Like I don't know if 2 freezing traps or 2 snake traps, which one's better. I just kind of ran one of each just because it's a long series. Like in ladder, you just pick the strongest one, whatever you feel. But so
So StrifeCro fighting with his left hand to kind of mix it up against Amaz. So very nice. I was gonna ask about the snake trap of why you included it, but I think you already hit upon it.
mhm.
So just to kind of like recap, because I guess I don't want to tap too much into your deck list because I know you are playing other tournaments upcoming, so maybe you don't want to spill too many secrets about it. Taking a look at Naxxramas as a whole, are you satisfied with all the cards that are being released? And if you kind of can pick 1 or 2 cards that stand out to you the most in terms of your personal favorites, can you go into depth why?
Yeah, I mean, well, I do like Nax a lot. I mean, I really think that I think Nax is like starting to push the meta back into some stuff I'm a lot more comfortable with, or at least games I enjoy a lot more. Before it's like with Miracle Rogue and just those like spell oriented decks dominating the meta game. It's I don't know if that's good or not, but I don't like it as a player, because like I don't feel like the game is as fun when it's all about like say more solitaire heavy or like Just like matching spells to creatures, like and like mathematical calculations, or whatever. I like like creature battling and incremental advantages, like stuff like that. So I feel like the metagame is a lot better now with, say, a lot of really sticky guys and death rattles and stuff like that. So it's very hard to remove like a whole bunch of sticky death rattlers with nothing but spells. It's more like more obvious to fight them with other creatures. So yeah, that's one of the things I like. Favorite two next cards, it's like Duplicate is one of them. Like at first when I saw Duplicate, so I
Wow.
thought it was a really weak card. Like I was like, yeah, Duplicate, and it's just like a AI, I guess, except it's kind of weird, right? But then after thinking about it a lot and playing with a lot, especially with Mad Scientist, um, I've really enjoyed Duplicate because, like, one of the things about Duplicate is that it kind of draws from outside your library. So um, it's really good in those fatigue wars. And this is like something I didn't consider at first when I saw Duplicate, but Duplicate essentially allows you to win like almost every fatigue war if you duplicate the right minions, because you're essentially running, say, 31 or 32 card decks. So you have like a kind of like a bigger deck, and you kind of like choose like based on what you're fighting. For example, if you're fighting like a really aggressive deck, you might want to duplicate like smaller minions so you can play out quicker stuff. If you're playing against, like, say, like warrior control versus mage control, you can kind of really go out of your way to duplicate something like a Karn or a Ragnaros or something. So it's really cool. Other one I kind of like is Web Spinner, because I think it allows Hunter to
Yeah.
open up,
Yeah.
like, I think it opens up the Hunter into less face-oriented hunters and more of these mid-range hunters. I mean, that doesn't mean that Hunter is kind of a bit too strong right now, but I really like the transition, how Web Spinner kind of transitions Hunter from like a all-in like Leper Gnome, like Wolf Rider class into a more like, say, Houndmaster and Solana High main class.
Wow. Well, this is basically a turn 2 episode with StrifeCro and Admirable and Frodan. So thank you so much for coming on and talking a little about your win here, StrifeCro. Do you have any last comments, shout outs, and thanks before we let you go?
Yeah, I'm good. Shout outs to Cloud9, our sponsors, Logitech, um, HyperX, basically. So yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, congratulations, Kong. You won $700 and you're able to take down the #1 ranked player in the world. Congrats on your win.
All right, cool. Thanks.
All right, Nathan. Well, that was a lot to take in. I told you, man. Whenever he's in that mode, you just can't stop him. He just continues to drop bomb after bomb. So always a pleasure to talk to StrifeCro, as I learned a lot. I actually took a couple notes while he was talking too. Nathan, how did you enjoy today, man?
I think that I would have liked to see this series go a little bit longer, but fantastic play, I think, from both sides still. Really, I think the only misstep that was made was the Loatheb turn for Amaz in Game 4. I would have liked to see him attack the face there instead of attacking the other Loatheb. But outside of that, I think both these players understood their matchups very well. They executed their game plans, and at the end of the day, it just went in favor of Hunter with a very strong draw engine and a very strong burst potential. That's able to pick up the pieces.
Maybe Amaz learned an important lesson in terms of not underestimating the Hunter, but maybe that's just kind of feeding into his game plan, and he can go back to the drawing board. And I guess for Amaz fans, he can't win them all. He's been winning so much, so I think it's okay for a guy like StrifeCro to sometimes pick up a W too. We're pretty much done here. Make sure to follow the channel here. Just click the follow button at the bottom of Twitch, and make sure to go all to their social media links at CM_esports on Twitter and Facebook.com/StormGear. Reminder to all the winners to PM the mods of the channel as well as the Facebook account, so that way you can claim your prizes. But don't worry, because there will be more chances to win in the future. Also, on the bottom of the screen, you notice a discount coupon, which is CM huge discount. Go to iheartyou.com/StrifeCro and book your coaching session with him, as well as other Cloud9 guys, and even this guy sitting to the right of me. That's Admirable. He's doing a great job coaching too. Nathan, any final words for the fellow people before we sign off?
Well, just a big thanks to all the fans for coming out. Without you guys, there wouldn't be much reason to put on these productions, would there? So big thank you to you guys. I enjoy it, hopefully, as much as you do. And that's going to about do it for me.
All right, cool. Let us know what you guys think too, at Frodan and at That's Admirable on Twitter. Thank you so much to Simon from iHeartU for doing the production of this as well. Big shout out to him. So from the rest of the crew here with CM Storm, as well as iHeartU and Frodan and Admirable, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.